Welcome to Day One Patch Podcast, episode 568.
Thank you.
I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. We got Matt Lawrence,
You do?
the Bandit of Montana.
Who calls him that?
I don't know.
I was going to say, who calls me that? And how did I get the reputation?
They keep calling you. I was going to
like
say
a
Bandit of
restaurant.
Montana's, but that doesn't sound as cool as the Bandit of Montana.
That just sounds like a real thing, yeah.
What Matt did was he took a bunch of paper towels and like shoved it in the drains and then left the water running and they overflowed.
In the kitchens, too, which is weird.
Yeah,
Is
we
this
don't know
our
how
new
you got back
thing?
there.
Instead of when someone's absent, we say that they're dead.
Well, some crime.
We try to sabotage people with misdemeanors and
Yeah.
questionable character things.
This one time Matt drove through a red light.
Actually, Ryan, do you remember we were driving through a construction zone and my hubcap like flew off? You remember
Oh, yeah.
that? At freaking speed too. I had to go back and
That's
get it.
That's so old school, Matt. Hubcaps don't normally just fall off anymore.
It's just the way it is, man.
All right, we got Tim Spence here,
I am also here.
the bandit
Who planned it?
who planned it. So he's our mastermind. He comes up with our
That's right.
schemes of misdemeanors.
By the time we're going to go into this convenience store, we're going to take one small bag of candy.
Ooh,
And pay for it in
yeah.
pennies.
Oh,
Yeah, that's not a crime. That's just annoying.
legal tender.
Yeah.
All right. We are going to talk about video games. We are in what used to be known as E3 season. I was losing my mind, tearing my hair out, trying to figure out the timing of all this crap. So yeah, this podcast will go up on Sunday. Then we got the state of play from Sony and then their PlayStation Studios on the 2nd of June. We're going to see more about Wolverine. We got Summer Game Fest, old fellow Canadian Jeff Keighley's big old E3 replacement, essentially. That's on 5th of June. That'll be a whole smorgasbord of reveals. And we got the Xbox Games Showcase. And that will be followed up by the Gears of War E-Day business. The business, you know?
A little bit.
Just generally, guys, what do you... I don't know about you, but I even though we run this like video game podcast and I follow video game news, I'm just out of the loop of what's going on in terms of like if you ask me what do I expect to see at these conferences, I have no idea, other than Gears of War because they announced that, and then Wolverine because they announced that. But it's like, what games haven't come out that have been announced that we need updates on? I don't even know. I'd have to look up a list. My brain just doesn't have it. Am I old?
Yeah, distinctly, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Just needed the answer to that. We'll
Well,
move
there's
on now
a-
to...
I was going to say a bunch of stuff came out. So you can't say, "Oh, I'm waiting for the next Forza." That came out. You're waiting for the next Fable. Hopefully they revive Fable because that's pending. GTA is on the horizon. A whole bunch of stuff has happened. The 007 First Light came out.
Mm-hmm. That
Like a
was
whole-
my most looked forward to.
Yeah, like it's a
First
whole
Light.
bunch of stuff came out this year, or we know generally when it's going to come out.
A lot of my
Or
like
is everyone...
watch list is like smaller titles, like indie stuff or like fan projects. Like still waiting on Sky Oblivion. That's like my most anticipated for sure.
Do we have an
Are they
update
going
on
to
that?
release? Are they going to release an update to Skyrim that breaks Sky Oblivion?
Oh,
It'd be awesome.
I hope
I
so.
would love that. It'd be horrible. I don't want it to happen.
It'd be
but
horrible. I'd love it.
It would just be like, oh man,
Sometimes
they
you want to
did
watch
it
the train
again.
wreck.
They did it again. All right. Matt, you got a video game fun fact for us?
I do indeed.
Then take it away.
You gotta sing the jingle first.
Video games, video games. His name is not James, it's Matt. Fun fact.
I'll take it. Thank you, Tim.
This is why I didn't go into music.
So today I thought we would tackle something that I've never heard of, and I dove into the first model of it, and then realized there were two other models later on in my research, and so they are in fact something I've again never heard of, and they're called Neopet handhelds. Specifically, they're called the Pocket Neopets. There's also deluxe Pocket Neopets, which are a variant of just Pocket Neopets or the standard Pocket Neopet. And then you also have NeoPens, which is a digital pen hybrid device. So this is, I don't know, kind of crazy. And I was talking to you guys before the show, and I had to kind of dive deep for this information. I found one article that was subscribers only, so I didn't pay for that. I found a couple of YouTube videos, so I watched one or two of those. And then I found an old blog, I think it is, on the actual neopets.com, and it was one of the old style pages from way back in the day. It had like a flash or a Silverlight plugin or something, Shockwave plugin there at the top, and of course that didn't work. And so some of this information may or may not be a little bit wishy-washy, even though this is relatively recent. It's because this thing has not been documented all that much. So let's dive in here to the very first thing, the standard Pocket Neopets. So Pocket Neopets were a series of LCD toys. They're console toys created by Tiger Electronics or Hasbro to promote the Neopets website. So Tiger unveiled the system on the 27th of January 2003 and began taking pre-orders through Walmart. Standard units were released later that spring, while deluxe units launched around July to August of 2003. The toys retailed for approximately $14.99 US. Standard Pocket Neopets came in 8 designs themed after popular Neopet species like Asha, Bruce, Grundo, Kachik, Kugra, Croc, Loop, and Tonu. Each device resembled a small playset representing a land in Neopia and came with a matching figurine and collectible bio card, which we'll mention later on. Now, these things, I've seen them compared to sort of Polly Pockets type of thing, where it's like a little environment that matches the little Neopet that you get.
I remember those.
Little tiny, you remember these? You remember these Neopet things?
No, I remember the Polly Pocket things that my sister had.
Okay, yeah. So they're opening up. There's like a little environment in there. There's a little LCD screen. There's a bunch of buttons and things you can interact with the device with. And then there's a little kind of pocket, if you will, on the right side that had the little figurine inside of it. The device just used a clamshell design with ports on the inside. On some models, players could even plug in the included figure into one of the ports to access different areas in games. And the figures would simply actually click into place. And by doing so, it would actually click a button to start the game. So it wasn't using any sort of special NFC or anything like that. It was just sort of an awkwardly shaped button, and these figures would fit in. For that functionality, though, I found information that some people said it worked with Pocket Neopets standard, but then when I looked up videos, I could only find deluxe Pocket Neopets that had that functionality. So that's one of the details that's a little wishy-washy. Now, each standard device included 4 built-in games, including Techo or something says, or otherwise known as Copycat. You have an egg drop game called Neg Drop. You got Poogle Race, and you also got Scorchy Slots. The handhelds also featured buttons and icons for feeding, stats, storing items, shopping, medical care, banking, and sleeping. Players earned virtual Neopoints through the games, and the devices dispensed a code that could be entered on neopets.com for prizes. However, these codes unfortunately later became obsolete. So if you're looking to find one of these things sealed in box, it is no longer valid on the new Neopets. The devices required players to do kind of like some Tamagotchi stuff. You had to feed and care for your pet. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner times were preset. They were set to 7:30 a.m., 12 p.m., and 7 p.m. on the standard devices. And it was slightly altered version of that. I think it was 15 or maybe 30 minutes off of those times for the deluxe editions. If the pet wasn't fed on time, it lost health and happiness. And after about 2 weeks without food, it would pack its things and leave. So not unlike a Tamagotchi, which would die, it was basically a lighter-hearted alternative to the death mechanic of other virtual pets. It would literally just kind of go off into the sunset.
You mean a Tamagotchi, not a Tomodachi, right?
Tamagotchi, yes. Yes, sorry. I've spent too much time researching this so clearly. Several early units have misprinted item names, such as Green Apple spelled with an A in there, like inappropriately, like Greean, or Spooky Muffin with too many O's, things like that. Also, there was a Red Cross symbol that was on one of the buttons that would be used to go to the doctor and like do the medical stuff. Unfortunately, the Red Cross actually complained about this, the Red Cross organization, and so Tiger then later had to replace that on various units that came out after. Now for the variant. So this is very similar to the first version. This is a deluxe Pocket Neopet. Deluxe Pocket Neopets were a larger version of the standard toys. Each came with not one but 3 removable figurines and 6 games, plus extra ports to recognize which character was being used. That's those ports that I mentioned before where they kind of snap into place. They required 4 AAA batteries compared to just 2 for the standard units, and they retailed for $19.99 versus, again, the $14.99 of the standard units. Only 2 deluxe models were ever produced. They are Fairyland, and they came with Poogle, Shoiru, and Uni figurines, as well as Meridel, which came with Drake, Ixie, and Loop figurines. Probably saying some of these names correctly. Packaging, so the actual plastic packaging from the era actually showed that there was going to be a Corbat version and a Nemo version of these things that were supposed to come out in the summer of 2004, but unfortunately those two never made it to market. Each deluxe device had 6 mini games, as I mentioned, that were tailored to its individual worlds, though. So, for example, Fairyland version offered games like Fiery Fairy Kitchen, Poogle Cloud Bounce, Math's Nightmare, and Wheel of Excitement. And the Meridel device included such titles like Ultimate Bullseye, Kiss the Mortog, Yeasty Bread Toss, The Neg Drop Again, Termac Roll, and more. These games were
bread toss.
That's it. That's the
terrible.
game. These games were more varied and complex than those on the standard devices. Now, like I mentioned, there's some integration with Neopets.com on both these things. So both Pocket Neopets and the deluxe versions allowed players to earn Neo points and unlock rare item codes that can be entered into the Neopets website. So I found one blog post that was talking about this, where the person was sort of reviewing or explaining how to use just the standard Pocket Neopet thing. And basically, there were 3 games on that thing. You would keep playing them until you earned a trophy, meaning you got first prize on that game. If you get first prize in all 3 games, because the one game is just a slot machine. So if you get it in the 3 games that you can get the top score in, you then get a special code, which you can then put into the Neopets.com. In that blog post, they mentioned something like you have to name your Neopet on the device the same as the Neopet on the website. I don't know if that's true. I feel like it isn't. I feel like that might just be for immersion, I guess, if you will. However, so there's a code on the device. However, you also got a code on the trading card. So I mentioned there was a card that came with these devices. So a trading card was included in the package that had a code on it that could also be used on the main website. And if that wasn't enough, you got 2 variants of these things. There was also a pen, a digital pen hybrid. NeoPens were LCD pens that functioned like Pocket Neopets while also acting as a real writing pen. They were released in Australia and New Zealand exclusively. They were sold at Toys R Us for sure, and possibly other retailers as well. That information was a little wishy-washy from what I looked at. Now, these things were actually more than just, hey, I have a Pocket Neopet and I can write on things. Of course, you could do that. But it also included some planner features as well, such as storing phone numbers, setting reminders, setting timers, taking notes, and also using a calculator. The top of each pen featured a removable Neopet pencil topper that doubled as the select button, and twisting the section above that little nib area allowed you to control controlled movement. NeoPens came in 3 designs. You had the Shoiru, which was red, the Kachik, which was blue, and the Asha, which was yellow. Each pen allowed players to care for the corresponding virtual pet, just like a Pocket Neopet, while also functioning as a course of working pen, and yes, the ink was replaceable. NeoPens included exclusive games, among them the 200-meter Peanut Dash, Corbat's Lab, Igloo Garage Sale, Swarm, and more. And that's it. That's the handheld versions of Neopets.
Pretty good. I just looked them up. I don't know if I remember seeing them. I only remember the Polly Pocket stuff. It's kind of weird.
Polly Pocket was definitely more popular, and then Pokemon had a version of sort of Polly Pocket.
That seems like the perfect thing. Like, what's even like a Togepi? That's what you should have just had. I just want a little Togepi.
I have a Batman face, and if you open it up, it's the Batcave.
Oh yeah, there's a bunch of those back then, right?
Yeah. They're all trying to probably, I would imagine, fight Polly Pocket.
Yeah, that's so funny. I love how there's all these like, I don't know what it is because Sometimes they just feel like cash-ins, but sometimes they are like kind of nice. But it's like when, even when like Pokemon Go came out and everyone tried to make like AR games and stuff like that. It's like, how come every time something's successful, there's a gold rush that then just ruins everything? You know what I mean?
Everybody's trying to chase that money. They all want a
Eh,
piece.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, I mean, it makes sense, I guess, because like if you try to mimic your competitor, they've already done the research. They've already figured out that this is something that works.
yeah. All right. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Ryan.
Hopping into the news for the week. Uh, Xbox boss Asha Sharma reportedly warns staff hard choices are ahead, but insists recent Game Pass changes are helping. This is what IGN. Excuse me. Um, Asha Sharma, who replaced Phil Spencer as the boss of Xbox. See, Matt, that's what I'm talking about. The boss of Xbox. Why don't they just say the head of Xbox? Why don't they say the CEO of Xbox? Why is it boss? I don't know. It just bothers me.
She's the boss. She's the boss, man.
I know, but all right. She spent her first few months in the job making a number of significant changes as Microsoft works to win back the hearts and minds of its core gaming fans. Among them was the end of the controversial "This is an Xbox" marketing campaign, as well as quickfire for the Xbox console features. What's that? As quickfire,
What?
as well as quickfire new Xbox console features.
Yeah, like they took the feedback and then were quickly like putting in new features.
Did they?
Yeah, that was like a couple weeks. I don't know if we ever
Oh,
covered it, but that was the
okay.
thing that happened. Yeah.
The Verge reported on an internal memo sent to Xbox staff that discussed the recent efforts to rebrand Xbox. It's officially Xbox in all capitals now. And in doing so, said Microsoft would be more deliberate in what it's doing in gaming. Quote, we are building a stronger Xbox. That means making hard choices about what we build, where we invest, and what kind of company we need to be going forward. That is part of what you are starting to see in the shift from Xbox to Xbox. That's from the lower the only first letter capitalized to all letters capitalized. It reflects the decision to be deliberate in how we show up for the players who care most about this brand. End quote. But what does this mean exactly? It seems unlikely that it signals a reversal in Microsoft's next gen console push, given the company talked about Project Helix as recently as earlier in May. To me, it sounds more like Microsoft is thinking about making difficult decisions on video games it's building and the studios making them. Microsoft has a vast network of first party developers, even before you factor in all the Bethesda and Activision Blizzard studios. Could those hard choices have to do with cancellations? Whatever the case, Sharma insisted that recent changes to the Xbox Game Pass have moved the needle. Microsoft cut the price of the subscription after raising it last year and stripped out Call of Duty as a day one launch title, instead adding in new Call of Duty games, such as this year's Modern Warfare 4, 12 months later. Quote, growth slowed down and subscriber loss accelerated after the pricing and SKU changes last year. Since our price reduction, we have seen acquisition grow and retention improve, which is good first step, end quote. I'm also wondering if hard choices is going to be layoffs, because obviously
Oh, inevitably.
if you're not doing too well, the biggest way to cut your expenses is going to be laying off, major things, canceling major projects. But yeah, do you think it's going to be hard times ahead for Xbox before we kind of see things turn around?
I mean, it's certainly not going to turn around instantly. That's for sure. I know you have a bunch of fans that are happy with the changes so far, myself included. But the fact that it's a warning to the staff means that like there's people going to be laid off. I'd almost guarantee that.
Just brace yourselves.
Everyone else is laying everybody off, so I mean, it's like layoff season at this point in the tech industry anyway. So I mean, why not Microsoft again? Because didn't they just semi recently do this?
Yeah, Matt, actually, I was going to send you a video. Jason Schreier recently kind of started doing YouTube videos, and he's a reporter for video games on at Bloomberg. But he did a video on why are games so expensive, and he basically breaks it down. It's labor costs. It is the salaries of hundreds of people over 3 to 5 or more years. That's how you get game budgets that are 200 million plus. And he
Sure,
even does like a back of the envelope like kind of math on it, and he shows you how quickly simply just paying people's salaries, balloons a video games budget. So it's not necessarily, building out a mocap studio or paying Unreal their percentage or whatever. It literally just comes down to we have so many people that it takes to build these video games now, and it costs them a lot of money to pay those people.
Good. People should be getting paid for the work that they're doing. Why it sounds like it's being laid out like a negative thing, but it's like, yeah, people should be paid to do their job. If
Well,
that's not
Jason Schreier
profitable
didn't lay
enough
it out as
for
negative.
you, no, I know. It just the way that you were stating it made it sound like it's some sort of negative.
Well, no, I'm not stating it as a negative. I'm just stating it as they're hiring like all these people to make these big games, and the sales aren't there to meet the salaries that they pay these people. I'm not saying their salaries should be lower or anything like that. It's just that there's some disconnect between the amount of money they're putting into hiring these people versus how much money they make on the back end. Because I just
But
don't think people are buying single player games in the same numbers they used to.
well, I had a conversation with a colleague about this, and I don't know if this is what's happening, but the very fact that the Steam Deck went up, a few $100s, couple $100s or something, which is a quite a large price increase, especially since the device hasn't been really updated too much, short of more or less an OLED screen from an LCD screen. It's still the Steam Deck One, as far as I'm concerned. The thing is like, I just wonder if people are turning their back on AAA and even just modern titles. We've seen the rise of those sort of emulation handhelds that are just sort of made by a variety of companies, and you can see that they're doing amazingly well. New ones come out pretty well every year from many of the major manufacturers of those. It's last I heard, I believe it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and those are examples. I mean, of people that are either whether it's nostalgia or whether it's them saying, I don't want to spend $100 per game. It's still something where they're spending, say, 200 to 500, because some of these devices are quite hefty in performance. But say like $200 to $500, and they buy one of these handhelds, and then they play a bunch of stuff on emulators. Now I know that some people won't like that. Of course, maybe there's the whole, is this legal? Is this is there piracy involved and stuff like this? Whatever, but right or wrong, it's happening. And so I kind of wonder whether like the the big projects, the people deserve to be paid, but I don't know if people are buying the stuff like you're saying. And I kind of wonder if it's because things are too expensive now. Like that cost of living crisis, people are just like, I'm not going to buy, First Light, or I'm not going to buy whatever. I mean, even myself, like I could afford First Light, I could afford a bunch of this stuff, but I just don't buy it immediately. I used to buy something
Well,
immediately,
because
and if it flopped, I'd be pissed off, but I wouldn't care too much. But it's now the stuff's too much. Like I'm not going to go and spend, $300 across a year on 3 games and have 2 of them suck. Like I might as well just wait till they go cheap, or really research them and then avoid the ones I don't actually want. And I wonder
yeah,
if many consumers are doing that.
there's a difference between what you can afford and what you are willing to pay.
Yes,
Right.
there's
And
that too.
so it's like, yeah, I can afford every new AAA video game too, but it's like I don't really want to pay $100+ for every new video game now. It's just like asking too much. And this has been a whole string of just horrible things that have been happening globally. So not even in the control of any one company. But you had
No,
COVID, gaming exploded during COVID, and then all these companies made the wrong decision of over hiring,
Yeah.
you know, and then over budgeting their games, hoping somehow imagining that this bubble was going to last forever. I think there's also been a bit of an internal gaming bubble where everyone's like, "Oh, it makes more money than like Hollywood does. It's the most profitable entertainment medium, and so everyone just thinks, oh, if we invest more into gaming, it's going to explode and we're going to see high returns. That's not really the case. On top of that, you had the COVID pandemic, which hurt supply chains. We had the frickin' graphics card debacle. Remember that a couple of years ago, whenever that
yep,
was? And now we have AI exploding, and everyone's diverting their money into selling their memory and their storage for servers, and that's hurting the hardware. And these game studios, it's not, yeah, it isn't just like human capital, but buying the computers to develop the games are now more expensive because they have to buy a new computer for a new staff member, and it has a new hard drive in it and a new memory in it. That costs hundreds of dollars extra now. So it's all compounding onto everything. On top of that, you have the inflation all over the place. So people's wages have to go up to meet inflation so they can survive, which then balloons your game budget, and then it all feels like it's a big disaster.
Well,
It
it's a
makes you
mess.
like it makes you wonder what the tipping point is, right? Like, are
Mhm.
people going to like is do AAA studios need to pivot the strategy to emulate smaller studios and
Yeah,
work on smaller projects?
yeah,
Because like if they look at the industry and the way that people are the way even if you just look at the market and go, what are people buying and what did people used to buy that they're not buying anymore? And a lot of the time it's these massive AAA games that are for like the newest console, newest hardware, whatever, that are trying to push like bleeding edge graphics and like demanding hardware, like system requirements. And putting all this money into it and then being like, man, we got to sell a million copies or we don't break even.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, well, why you're kind of setting yourself up for failure at
yeah.
that point. Like whether you think that that's right or wrong, the reality is you there has to come a point where you got to play to the market. And like I don't think it's a situation where so much anymore that it's like if you build it, they will come kind of mentality. Like people video games used to be so much more novel than they are now. And like you say, Ryan bringing it up as like the largest entertainment industry, you can only like see a video game for the first time in your life as novel, like when you're of a certain age, really. If it's always there ever since you're young, it's not really so novel anymore for like a good chunk of your life, or at the very least, a more impactful time of your life. And so like people are totally fine to just not worry about the gimmick of video games so much as viewing them as movies or TV shows or books. Like, what enjoyment do I get out of this? What value is there in this for me? Like they can't really like just, you know, ride on the hype train of, oh, this newfangled technology so much, you know? Like I feel like people are harder than ever to impress with something like a video game because people's bar for anything consumable, especially like digital content, is just so high because we're just so inundated with it constantly. So like you can't I feel like you'll be hard pressed to find a gamer who will say, "Man, I can't wait to drop $100, $115, $120 on GTA 6 because it's gonna look so friggin' good." Like
Yeah,
nobody cares about what GTA 6 is gonna look like. They're gonna care about a couple of people are gonna care about the campaign, and millions of people are gonna care about the online
yeah.
because that's the fun part.
I feel like but I don't. I kind of. I really wish you could sit down with like some of these, like the head of Ubisoft and or one of these big publishers, and just be like, why can't you make a game? Like, Claire Obscura Expedition 33. If you told me it was a big AAA game from some major studio, I'd believe you.
Sure.
But it's from a first time studio and I think a relatively small team, right?
I mean, relative to a lot of the industry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's relatively small.
and it was pretty successful. It had a huge cultural impact and won Game of the Year. And it's like, why don't you want to make those kind of games? Like, why do you have to make some massive 60-hour, super great looking, amazing game? And Clair Obscura looks beautiful.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I think it's pretty cutting edge in terms of its visual fidelity.
I mean, if you
Um,
go to them and you say, why don't you want to make a Clair Obscur? I'm sure they would answer, we do. We do want to make a Clair Obscur. You want to make something that is like culturally impactful, that people get a lot of emotional satisfaction out of and sells incredibly well and is fun to play. Like, yeah, that's it's the golden formula, of course. Why wouldn't you want that? But like,
but just how do you mimic that without?
Well, one thing I was thinking of is if you look at games of old, we have something similar to this, but look at games of old, especially on PC. We used to have something. I'll just use Call of Duty as an example, like the original Call of Duty, or even actually a better example might even be Medal of Honor. Medal of Honor Allied Assault came out. It was fairly popular as far as I know, really long campaign and stuff. celebrated multiplayer as far again, at least in my circles. And then they came out with two expansions over time. Came out with Spearhead and Breakthrough. And I would imagine, I'm not a game dev, but just I would imagine that those took less time to make than Allied Assault. It also kind of quote unquote buys them time until the next Medal of Honor comes out or the next whatever thing they're working on comes out. And like I agree with Tim in that way when you were saying like you need to work on smaller projects. I almost think that these big studios, they're ignoring the smaller projects because they think, you know, we're a Titan and we do Titan sized things. Like, oh, like no one else can have games as like as nice as us. Like we have all these resources, all these things, and then it comes out and it's like half the time it's messed up. There's glitches and things, or it comes out and it looks beautiful, but the game isn't that fun. There's all these like problems with AAA games, but they are right. Like they have the most resources, they have the most talent or a lot of talent. And if given the time, they probably could make quote unquote the best games ever. And so that's probably what they're shooting for. And they don't want to make these smaller titles. But I would almost say it would make more sense, at least to me, like something like Bethesda, instead of waiting 10 years between major titles, it almost makes more sense to say, you know what, like we'll release Fallout 4 and then we'll keep Fallout 4 alive with half decent content with a smaller team. Meanwhile, we'll have like Fallout 5 be cooking in the background and the timeline won't be 10 years, it'll actually be 12 years, but we'll release more of these smaller things along the way. Yes, I know that Fallout 4 got expansions and DLCs, but I mean more substantial expansions. Like something where it's like indie game sized, because then they could still keep this thing alive. They could get revenue. They're getting feedback as well. They could release things to people and see what people like, see what people don't like as the years go on. And then they can tweak the Fallout 5 experience, for example, because that's a big, like Starfield's a big fucking Hail Mary and like, you know, years and years dumped into it. And then it's like, it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But they could have seen that if they had some sort of smaller space game where they're like, oh, fuck, people don't like this. That's not good. Like,
So the Expedition 33 team is literally 33 people.
damn it.
I just counted everyone on their page here. 34 if you include the dog Monaco.
Which we do.
Okay, well 34 then. uh Now the obvious thing here would be if we're asking like Xbox Studios or PlayStation Studios or Ubisoft or whoever, why can't you do an Expedition 33? That would include layoffs, because if they have a team of 250 people working on Assassin's Creed, and when we're asking why can't you do an Expedition 33, well, it's like, okay, you got to fire all those people, and that's not what we want either.
Well, you could argue that you could, with 250 people, you could crank out 9 Expedition 33s.
Make more.
Yeah.
An Expedition 33 is a big game, actually. It's a big RPG.
Yeah.
So it's not even like you're losing the scale of the game. It has great combat, you know, super dynamic, and you can get really in depth with it. And once you learn it, you can get really good at it. The world and the lore is amazing. The characters are well developed, and so it's like it's possible, yeah. And why not just split those teams up and make a bunch of games, and then you could, because it feels like Ubisoft and Activision used to make a bunch of games, and now they just kind of don't, or EA more rather, because Activision doesn't really. They do Call of Duty and like that's it. That's what it feels like, at least.
Well, the thing, of course, is that it circles back around to the money, right? It's like they can't. The projects are so big and they put so much money into them now that they literally can't afford to fail.
Yeah,
There's like,
which means you can't experiment.
Yeah, back in the day, you'd see, you know, companies trying weird stuff, and you had a bunch of stinkers, and that's fine. But your devs learn, and the companies learn, and you can do something with that in the long term. But the problem, of course, now is with the just the hyper profit driven mentality that is kind of, it's just in everything, right?
Yeah.
Because of the way that the world is. Like, it's no wonder that they feel pressured to operate the way that they operate, because they kind of have no choice. They literally can't operate any other way. They just don't have the leniency that they had back when there wasn't so much on the line.
Yeah.
But at the same time, makes you wonder, well, maybe things would be less of a risk if you weren't spending 6 years making every game.
Yeah.
You're spending a year or two making every game, then if you have a flop, then okay, you only, quote, wasted a year or two of development time and funds.
You know what's
Imagine a GTA 6 comes out and it's like, and it's abysmal and it's terrible and it just
oh
doesn't make like
no.
back any of the money that they spent on it. Like, it's not going to happen because GTA is a guaranteed success in the wake of 5 and how much money it makes. And I mean, even if it did make any money, they'd probably be
Although you
fine
never
because of all the
know.
shark cards. But just imagine if they put like $1 billion into this game and it only sells like 15,000 copies.
I would say it's not guaranteed. You don't know in today's day and age. You know, there could be some online campaign against them, and things could turn sour, and there could be something in the game that, oh, it's woke, and then they all go nuts, and you know,
Man, I hope
you
that we
never
get
know
a
what's
bunch of
gonna freaking
articles
tear
saying
down these
GTA 6 has
games.
gone woke. I hope that'd be so funny.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that there's anyone out there actually doing this? Like sort of experimenting, like you were saying, Ryan, where they're like Ubisoft used to release a whole bunch of games, and that's more or less experimenting, right? Getting feedback, figuring out what people like, what people dislike, what projects to really dive into, like AC, that becomes a big titan of a title, and then maybe you can have your big sort of magnum opus project for 6 to 10 years. But are there any is there any big studio doing this? I can't think of one off the top of my head.
I don't think so because they've all gone to, either milking the crap out of a franchise like Assassin's Creed and spending big bucks making the next iteration of that, or they don't seem to be producing games anymore.
Yeah,
Ubisoft doesn't even have a showcase anymore. Even after like E3 died, they still had that like Ubisoft Connect showcase. That seems to be gone. EA used to have EA Play. That's like gone. What's the last like EA's did like Battlefield, and then they did like Star Wars Jedi Survivor like 3 years ago or whenever that was.
that'd be their biggest
Like
experimentation too,
like
because that's kind of
what
like a random
else?
offshoot, like Star
Like
Wars
what else have
game.
they done? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Oh, I guess Dragon Age, but BioWare is a bit separate, and that was kind of a flop for them too. So it's like Jesus Christ.
it doesn't, and I mean, there probably is one out there, but it doesn't feel like I was gonna say there's any studio out there like Pandemic that used to jump around quite a bit. Like they did Mercenaries, they did the Battlefronts. They've worked on a whole crap load of different things, but I guess just in general, games were shorter to make back then, so it's a bit of a moot point.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what these big hard choices are. But I mean, Xbox probably needs to make the hard choices so they can hopefully come back stronger. Uh, I guess we'll see what they announced at their what do they call it? Xbox Showcase.
Yep.
It's always going to come back to the devs.
One thing, Xbox delays Fable to 2027. That's from IGN. The long-awaited RPG had been due to launch this fall on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S. Though Microsoft had not set a specific date for its arrival. Now, due to Xbox's busy release schedule and a certain game named GTA 6 is coming next year instead. Quote, this year is packed with incredible games for Xbox players to enjoy, from Halo Campaign Evolved, Gears of War E-Day, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4, to Control Resonant, Star Wars Galactic Racer, and Grand Theft Auto 6. No offense to Star Wars Galactic Racer, but I don't know if that's any kind of
That is
threat to anyone there.
they
But
shoehorned that
all
one
right.
in there.
Yeah.
They're like Star Wars actors.
Yeah. In order to plan our game launches through the holidays in a way that works best for players, we're moving Fable to February 2027 so it can have the dedicated moment it deserves. We're excited to be giving players a major new look at Fable, as well as our broader lineup at Xbox Game Showcase on June 7th. End quote. Obviously, they're moving out of the way of the big fish.
GTA, yeah.
But at the same time, it gives them time to make the game better because, as I had said to you guys, it's like they kind of need this game to work. They need this game to sell, and so hopefully they can take that time to polish even further, or do whatever they got to do.
Well, I agreed anyway. Like if I were to buy GTA 6 near launch, which will probably end up happening, I mean that's the game I bought. and I'll wait on Fable anyway.
Yeah. What if GTA 6 was $150?
Then I'll buy
I'd
two.
have to see at the time.
Then you'll buy two copies?
That's right. One for my children's children.
Give them a version that like no longer works. They're on like GTA like 12 or maybe just GTA fucking 7. It took that
Maybe
long.
that'll be GTA. They rebooted it.
Do you
Oh,
think do you
Christ.
think do you think they were partly hoping that GTA would get delayed and like move out of like why did they announce now that they're moving it? It's like we've known the GTA release time for a while now, but it hasn't moved again. And so were there like kind of a game of chicken where it's like, are they going to move?
Mm,
Because we'll stay here if they move, you know.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Giant Bomb's Jeff Grubb reported last month that there had been a concern at Microsoft about Fable potentially running up against the behemoth that is GTA 6, which now appears to be locked in to its November 19th, 2026 release date. Quote, I'll say that I've heard that Fable has been pushed internally, Grubb said. That doesn't mean that it's coming out next year, although I guess that's kind of wrong. Apparently, they're still trying to get it out this year, but they are worried about the launch of GTA 6, and so it's getting delayed beyond the release of Grand Theft Auto 6. That could push it into December, which might make it a prime candidate to get delayed into 2027. Oh, there you go. So while Xbox will have a lot of games coming out this year, that's one that there's a big question mark around. I mean, Xbox is going to benefit from GTA 6 anyway because they're going to be selling it on their system as well. So they don't want to even you don't want to hurt either candidate.
Well, let me ask you this. If you somehow look forward and then have the hindsight, I would imagine if Fable releases and is good but doesn't do well and it was near GTA 6, people would say in hindsight, man, they really shouldn't have went and
Oh
fought
yeah,
GTA 6, right?
yeah.
So
It's no GTA 6. I
yeah, so I
don't
think
think
this is the choice, honestly.
I, I don't think there's any game that could have gone up against GTA 6 and had any hope of surviving that. You know.
Yeah. There is something that's coming out near it, Call of Duty, right? Modern Warfare 4.
Yeah, but that's like I think that's one of those things where like those guys, the Call of Duty fans, are going to buy Call of Duty. Uh, at least at some point. Maybe I imagine there's quite an overlap of Call of Duty and GTA
I
fans.
was
But
gonna say they're probably gonna buy
yeah,
both.
yeah,
it's a just a circle. I was gonna say,
yeah.
like, that is a part of the formula to consider is that while everybody memes that GTA 6 is like the game to come out, it does have a core demographic. And like you're gonna get the people who, maybe they consider themselves maybe they're younger or they prefer more like family games and they're not really into the kind of like crime games like GTA or they're like Nintendo gamers or that sort of thing, like there's going to be a huge portion of the market that GTA just isn't marketed towards.
Yeah.
I got a funny, just odd side story. When I bought our first capture card for Day One Patch Mat, I went to Best Buy and I bought it, and this was like around the launch of GTA 5. And
Okay.
the guy at the Best Buy said, "Are you buying this for GTA 5?"
Oh,
And I was like, "No." I was like, "No, no, no, not really." But I just thought that was funny that like he was aware that like a big game was coming out because I didn't say anything about GTA. I didn't say anything about any other games. I was just buying the capture card.
well, those store reps, and like Tim, you might be able to chime in here, but I would imagine store reps are getting questions all the time about big game releases because there's some people that just don't check online or the parents just go to the store, be like, "This is a video game store. I'm going to ask about this GTA thing that my kid wants."
Well, yeah, that's half the demographic when you work at a game store is the people that are there to buy games for their kids or whatever. They have no idea what's going on. It's less so now for sure than it used to be. Like 12 years ago or whatever it was when I first had that like part-time job at a game store, gaming was still hyper popular, but it was more niche than it is now. Everybody
Yeah.
plays video games now, but like so there's, you know, you're always gonna get that.
What age were you guys when you first played a GTA?
I first played GTA 1 when I was
Too young.
pretty young. Yeah,
Yeah.
like because it was on my aunt and uncle's and cousin's computer.
They
My
bought
brother and
it?
I, yeah, because my cousin's a lot older than me and my brother,
Hmm.
and so they were playing like GTA. My brother and I were playing it when we went over to their place one time, and it was like we were kind of too young to really understand like how to play the game and sort of thing.
Yeah.
So we're just like, oh, this is a game where you can like you have a top-down view of a car and you drive around a city and you can go off jumps and you can run over people on the sidewalks and stuff. And it's like, you know, it's also kind of towing that line of like the graphics are so bad you can't even really tell what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's like, am I being a bad person or is it just pixels running into pixels? Which I guess is just video games anyway. But
It's also life.
You're
oh,
just
It's
running
just
into pixels?
atoms running into atoms,
oh, I thought you were making the
but
world's
never
a
touching.
simulation.
We've never touched anything.
Yeah, my atoms aren't touching my
No,
other atoms.
they're not.
I don't like science stuff like that.
Okay, well.
Well, you've just never touched anything, man.
It creeps me out. Assuming what you're saying is true, that creeps me out for some reason.
You know what creeps me out is we're just a bubbly mass of atoms.
No, see, I don't like that. That's the type of stuff I'm saying.
Like we're not like a solid thing. We're just a bubbly mass.
And we're all always doing this. Hmm.
I hope I hope I hope no one else makes that noise. Like I hope like most people don't make that noise. You know how scary that'd be? A bunch of people coming at you like that.
When people, but if you could see like atoms, like just from like a normal viewing distance, then yeah, would be scary bubbly masses.
Terrifying.
Yeah, I don't like it.
It's pretty good
All
for you.
right. Uh,
Well, to answer
I'm
your question,
sorry.
Ryan, I was 10.
Jesus, what are you guys doing?
My I had a friend who lived like a
Where are
couple
your
houses.
parents?
I
Oh
had
my
a friend who
God.
lived a couple houses down, and like they just didn't. They just bought whatever game. So he was just like GTA, like Vice City, and so we were playing GTA Vice City.
God.
I was new to gaming, so I was like, I don't know what the fuck this thing is. Like,
Well, I mean, yeah, to be fair, in elementary school, like all my friends were like playing GTA, and I was the only one being like, what is it? You know, I want to see. You
you
know,
can't see.
Get
no.
me involved.
What's that? I want to see it. All right. I'm still looking forward to Fable, though. I think I'm willing to wait. I don't know how long like GTA is going to last, like in the playtime, though.
I usually get what usually happens when we go Rockstar games is I get into the loop, and then eventually I'm just like, okay, I'm going to finish this damn game. I did the same thing with even with Red Dead, where I'm like, okay, it's just time to do story missions.
Red Dead's a big ass game. Yeah, you definitely need to focus up sometimes because you could get distracted. Like didn't Wesley like Marty just start like fishing or something? And
Oh, those guys were fishing all the time, man. I never hunted or fished anything. I used to hunt the hunters. I'd see a hunter with a bunch of like game and
oh,
stuff. I'd kill the hunter, steal all of his
oh,
shit.
you're an outlaw.
I was an outlaw. I was a freaking
God
evil. I was an
damn.
evil son of a bitch.
All right, final news story for the week. Bill to block publishers from killing online games advances in California. It's from Ars Technica. A bill focused on maintaining long-term playable access to online games has passed out of the California Assembly's Appropriations Committee, setting up a floor vote by the full legislative body. The advancement is a major win for Stop Killing Games' grassroots game preservation movement and comes over the objections of industry lobbyists at the Entertainment Software Association. California's Protect Our Games Act, as currently written, would require digital game publishers who cut off support for an online game to either provide a full refund to players or offer an updated version of the game that enables it to be continued, uh, enables its continued use independent of services controlled by the operator. The act would also require publishers to notify players 60 days before the cessation
Cessation period?
cessation of
Yeah.
services necessary for the ordinary use of the digital game. As currently amended, the act would not apply to completely free games and games offered solely for the duration of a subscription. Any other game offered for sale in California on or after January 1st, 2027 would be subject to the law if it passes. Matt, we kind of talked about this. I think was it in the Query Corner question?
Yes, yeah, we
Or
were
what was
talking
that?
about passing. Yeah, we were talking about whether like a viable way to do this would be like if let's just say GTA 5 online, like let's just say that for the sake of simplicity. So like GTA 5 online, you know, is obviously being maintained by Rockstar. It's, you know, it's all that stuff. And then GTA 6 comes out, and let's just say Rockstar is like, I'm done with this, I don't want to do this. So instead of shutting down, they'd be able to give it to a game preservation community, whatever, but there'd be the law that we were talking about, Ryan, would be something where like Rockstar is hands off now. Like they can't be sued. Like that's it. So basically the community runs it because there's such a vibrant like modding and game preservation community that I thought maybe it's just makes sense to give it to the community and just have a law that insulates Rockstar, obviously, and then just allow the community to do their thing. Because you have people for something as niche as PlayStation Home trying to get people to get their PlayStation 5 or their PlayStation 3 caches to get as much data as they
Yeah.
can to reconstruct PlayStation Home. And it's like, who the fuck would do that? How good would these game preservation and these game fans and like the community, how good would they be at keeping games alive given the real tools by Rockstar being given the real thing where they're not like kind of in the shadows looking for cache data and stuff like this?
I believe the ESA brought up some points of why this shouldn't happen. It does say this week's 11-2 committee vote to advance the Protect Our Games Act is being trumpeted by Stop Killing Games, the UK-based player advocacy group that was formed after the 2024 shutdown of Ubisoft's The Crew. The Entertainment Software Association, which helps represent the interests of major game publishers, publicly told the California Assembly last month that the bill misrepresents how modern game distribution actually works. Quote, consumers receive a license to access and use a game, not an unrestricted ownership interest in the underlying work. End quote. The eventual shutdown of outdated or obsolete games is a natural feature of modern software, the group added, especially when that software requires online infrastructure maintenance. The ESA also said the bill would impose unreasonable expectations on publishers regarding licensing rights for music or IP rights, which are often negotiated on a time-limited basis. Quote, a legal requirement to keep games playable indefinitely could place publishers in an impossible position, forcing them to renegotiate licenses indefinitely, or alter games in ways that may not be legally or technically feasible. End quote. It's also interesting. I was thinking about it too. What if the studio was going under?
Yeah.
What if they were going bankrupt or something, and they don't have the money to make the game work on its own or indefinitely on some other server or something like that?
Well, if this bill was in place, then they would ideally be taking that into account when they're making it.
Oh, I see what you're
That
saying.
would be a consideration. If you can't afford to support it forever, then
You have to prepare it for its eventuality of being put somewhere else.
yeah. I mean, there was the thing, the person on the can't remember the name of the place, but the European Union where they were on the floor and they were advocating for the like Stop Killing Games initiative and stuff.
Yeah.
Talking about the 1.3 million Europeans who were in support of this like bill and stuff, and talking about implementing it, but also recognizing like the considerations on behalf of the game developers, right? And they're like, especially with smaller devs, like, we can't, we're not asking for something unreasonable, and we want to work with these developers to come to an understanding. Like, they're just, obviously wanting to advocate for the most reasonable solution to still provide people access to these things that they have purchased. And I think that when these game companies come back and they say something like, "Oh, we're not doing anything that's not in the like end user license agreement. It says that you're buying, quote, like limited access to this while this service exists or whatever, and that's what you're agreeing to when you purchase the product." No, that is not the expectation of the average user. People buy
No.
games and they expect to be able to use those games, and I don't think that's unreasonable, and it's pretty unreasonable of them to come back with that argument and say, "Oh, well, technically, we've got you bent over." It's like, yeah, that's not good. That's not good that you're admitting to that. And, it just always makes me come back around to that the statement of like the people keep, perpetuating, if purchasing isn't owning, then piracy isn't stealing. So like, I don't know. It just seems like they're coming at this with the argument of, well, we knew that this was going to be a thing, and so we wrote it up in legalese in the end user license agreement that we know people aren't going to read, just to be like, ah, gotcha, if they tried anything. But you're perpetuating, like you're making these services super easy to purchase and these games easy to purchase with as few clicks as possible and try to get money out of people's hands as quickly as possible. And you're not highlighting the fact that people will only have temporary access to this as long as
Right.
you are only interested in providing that access.
I think that's why me and Matt talked about like a legal framework where, let's say they hand these games off to like be managed by someone else. It's no longer their responsibility to pay for the relicensing of music or other IP. You know, that they're no longer legally held liable for managing that. And that would be more on the people who then maintain the game indefinitely. It's like, okay, well, these licenses went up. You're no longer allowed to uh, have this music in your thing. It's up to them to then like either deal with it or pay for
Yeah.
renegotiations or whatever.
And you know what would happen there, especially if it's a game with like a radio station, just like with YouTube, where they eventually came out with an audio library because people were getting caught just using sound effects, and they ended up, just a beeping noise or something would end up being copywritten. And so YouTube came out with the audio libraries. You can kind of safely use that music according to their guidelines. You know that somebody would say, "Oh my God, a bunch of these games need music. Like, what artists want to be in on this?" And then there would be a whole bunch of stuff that they would be allowed to like sub in, and
Oh
that,
yeah.
the community aspect, like the community driven side of things, like it really drives those little handhelds. Like I was saying earlier, like those little handhelds, like a lot of the software that people install, custom firmware, yada yada yada, etc. Like a lot of that stuff is community driven entirely, and like a lot of it's like quite professionally done. There's really good guides on it and stuff like this. There's constant updates on some of it and things. And it's like I just feel like the community would just end up getting it done, and they would just figure it out. And it just allows Rockstar and whomever to just say, you know what, like I'm done with this, but like you guys can do as you will. Because that way, if there's literally no one or like 10 people that are trying to keep an MMO alive and it dies, it's like, okay, well, unfortunately that one, no one's around. But if something like Star Wars Galaxy, I just watched a guy play Star Wars Galaxies on like a private server because Star Wars Galaxy has been dead for a long time, Star Wars MMO, and it's super active. People were talking to him, all this other stuff. And it's like, there's a huge community on this thing. And the whole thing is community driven. The actual fact that we're on a server, the server's community driven. The website that where you download this mod or whatever it is to get into Star Wars Galaxies is community driven. And it's and it's smooth. Like it's not a difficult process. It's not like you're sneaking in through crazy like means to get through these experiences. Like the community knows to make things easy. Cause like you were saying, Tim, like it's a lot of people who are just sort of like the layman or aren't going to understand licensing and stuff. The same way that somebody might be a fan of Star Wars Galaxies and the community knows we need as many people as possible in this community. We can't have all the tech nerds in here only. We have to make it easy. We have to make installers and guides and websites to guide people through it.
I always found it weird that movies don't seem to have this problem with licensed music. And maybe they pay for like a certain amount of sales, and maybe they just never meet those sales. But it's not like they go back. At least I've not heard of this happening. But they go back and edit music out of a movie for future releases.
That's a good
It's like
question.
why do video games have this weird thing where it's like, okay, well, our song can be in GTA, online for like 5 years, and then it's like, well, and then why don't they even re-up it? Why don't they ever like say, oh yeah, we'll go for another 5 years? It's bizarre to me.
It is weird. It is weird because I was just thinking like, is it a new versus old movie thing where movies it's like, hey, we're effectively printing these onto VHSs or DVDs or whatever, and there's no way for us to like sort of retract that song. Whereas
Hmm.
GTA Online can just push an update out, and then all of a sudden your favorite song's gone.
Yeah, bizarre. But
I
anyway,
I I was just gonna say one thing. It's like there is like a rock and a hard place with this too. Like I think
yeah.
Tim mentioned it, where it's like the indie devs going to an indie dev and saying you have to make sure this server stays up forever. And it's like, well, like what if it's just someone who's like a weekend coder and they're just kind of fucking around and they put out a $2 game on Steam, and now all of a sudden they're in this sort of tumultuous. Oh my god, I have to keep this server up forever. Like what do I do? Like we don't want to weed people like that out because like
Hmm.
that's how sometimes you get good creators, because someone who is just a weekend coder who's kind of fucking around might end up making something really cool, and then they become someone quite famous, like someone like the Stardew Valley creator. I know he was like really into it when he was making it, but he didn't go work at a studio. He went to school, as far as I understand it, and then he went and then made Stardew Valley. And you wouldn't want to scare him off, and be like, yo, bud, you got to have all this infrastructure and stuff. I understand Stardew's more of a single player game, but someone like him, you wouldn't want to scare someone like him off. Obviously, he's contributed a lot to gaming. Like Stardew Valley is freaking everywhere. Everyone knows what Stardew Valley is now.
Well, we're one step closer, I suppose. We'll see if this passes. This is just being like, I guess, I don't know how the California, like, state government works there, but California's a big state for that to happen if it does get passed, though. And it might ripple out from there, just because it's easier. And they prove that it worked in court and stuff. So, all right, that's the news for the week. Moving on to what we're playing, Matt.
Me,
What the hell have you been playing?
what have I been playing? I've actually been playing quite a bit of my PSP lately.
Oh hell yeah,
I got pretty far in that Star Wars Lethal Alliance actually.
hell yeah,
I've been playing that quite a bit, ripping through that. You play as a Twi'lek bounty hunter, and you have a
oh
companion
yeah, you
little
do.
droid robot guy that flies around. It's one of the shooters on there. It's a third person shooter. It's one of the shooters that actually did a really good job, I think, at least for the time, for like the lock-ons and stuff like that. Whereas a lot of the shooters back then used the face buttons as like a second analog stick. This one did not do that, thankfully. It's very much like they know it's on a PSP and they're not trying to emulate like two sticks, which is really, really nice. And so it's really easy to control. Lots of save points, lots of checkpoints, which is well designed for a mobile game, because that's oftentimes what I'll do is I'll hop in for a level or two. It's maybe 10-20 minutes, then I'll stop, kind of thing. So I've been doing that. I've been playing a little bit of Burnout Legends as well on my PSP. And I just literally a few hours ago, as of recording, I received my case, and I received some additional storage for my PSP Go. So I went and installed that, and it worked good. And I ordered it as a generic brand, and I actually got SanDisk ones, and they actually look
Hmm.
like legit SanDisk ones, which is awesome. So they worked right away, and so I'm going to start working on getting my PSP up and going. I might need a new battery for it, depending on how that goes, just because of the age. But it's been a cool little project and getting that going. Uh, what else have I been playing? I installed but not played Horizon. Was it 6? Horizon 7? Forza Horizon. I installed that like a day after it came out, and then just haven't got a chance to play it again, unfortunately, or haven't got a chance to try it in general quite yet. But other than that, we did some Space Marine 2. So that's been cool. We're starting to understand, or at least I am starting to like better understand the leveling up and the perks and stuff. Because as the difficulties go up, you have to pay more attention to that. Whereas in the past, you just didn't have to, so I didn't. So that's been cool. We creeped up a difficulty successfully, so that's awesome. The new update runs like shit on my computer, so I'm going to try to tinker with that before we play it next time. But even though I had it running perfectly before, which kills me, and now it won't even
Oh,
run. It was running perfect on ultra. Now it won't run on low. So something's gone awry there. I'm not really sure.
Hmm. And I
But
prestiged already in that game.
you prestiged. You've been
Yeah,
playing it. Hot
oh,
damn!
it's good stuff.
Is the prestige worth it?
Probably in the end, yeah, it'll be worth it for sure.
You get, because you do get a skill or something, right? You get some sort of actual tangible.
You get a prestige perk, and then it resets all your other perks. So it's like if you can deal with not having your perks for a little bit again, then yeah. I haven't seen too many people that like I played with a good number of randoms, but I haven't seen too many people that have prestiged. But I wonder if it does like similar level matchmaking because as soon as I prestiged, the next match that I went into was with somebody who was second prestige. So
Oh,
I
that
wonder
makes sense.
I wonder if it like does things that way, but you can always go back and like queue for lower difficulties when you're higher levels, so that wouldn't have been a gate for it. I don't know. Anyway,
I assume that's what you have to do, right? Because since you have no perks, so you would go down. I don't know. Would you go down a difficulty? Like, what are you doing?
I went down one difficulty, but yeah, I was doing the level 10 difficulty level 1 and it was fine.
Okay.
And you get 10% more experience every time you prestige, so you will continue to catch up faster and faster as you prestige more.
Well, you also found that freaking that crazy where you could actually get a mastery point without using the stupid gun. Because you and I were looking and we're like, great, now we got to go back and use like a green weapon. Meanwhile, we have a purple or maybe even a gold weapon. We got to go back to get a mastery point. So we're going to be using this like shitty weapon and we're pushing the difficulty up. But then you're just like, oh my God, we can just exchange armory data. It's like, well, that changes literally everything. It's like something
Yeah.
so small, but it's like, holy fuck. Like I'm able to level up. This is fantastic. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's probably my only gripe with that game, really, is that there's a lot of like core mechanics to it that it just doesn't talk about ever. And I
yeah.
think that that is supposed to be like a core mechanic. Like if you've leveled up one character and you want to go back and like play other classes, then you can use your more leveled up equipment. And it's like, well, if you want to use other guns that you haven't leveled up because you couldn't like use them with your other character that you had already leveled, then you can just use the armory data to like buy buy your way through the mastery of the other guns to kind of reward you for having still grinded out those resources even when you were playing a different character and you were like had nowhere else to go progression wise.
Well, that's the other thing too, right? Is there's a lot of these little intricate things which would be once explained are simple. It'd be nice if they explain that because you also have to go through multiple classes. It's not like you level up to 10 and then all your classes are level 10. So you have to level up each individual one. And it's like, man, I'd like to know all the mechanics so I can kind of min max to an extent because like that's a lot of grinding. Like
But it is one of those games where like doing the same thing over and over again is kind of the point. So
little Left 4 Dead-y,
it's
yeah, for sure.
it's basically the gameplay, yeah.
But that game's been a ton of fun. I'm really enjoying playing that. And I'm looking forward to leveling up and potentially prestiging. I think I'm like one level away or something, if memory serves. Something like that. But I think that might be it. That might have been my week.
Tim? Actually played quite a variety of stuff this week. Um, did some more Alabaster Dawn, which is incredible. Um, one of the best indie games that I've played in quite a long time. Even though it is still technically early access, I still haven't made my way through all of the content in that game, but I'm milking it a little bit because uh it's just so good, and I'm really enjoying just the moment to moment gameplay in it. Um, it's just been very like the gameplay keeps it compounding on itself and like adding different mechanics and doing multiple gameplay mechanics, different combinations of mechanics in different ways and adding on to it and stuff like that. So it just really feels like every time that you play one level or they add some new thing that you can always count on the next level. Again, building off of that in different ways, just in terms of like, oh, this enemy does this kind of attack, and these other enemies have these shields or whatever, or these things can put a shield on an enemy. So now you've got a and then you combine those at the same time. So now it's an encounter where you got to fight all these little enemies, and then there's the larger enemies that have a shield on them. So you have to figure out how to break the shield while also trying to fight everything at the same time. And it's never so much that it becomes super overwhelming, but it's very like it keeps adding things together in thoughtful ways, and it's just very compelling. Um, Similarly, playing Space Marine 2, always very fun. Uh, Played a lot of like demos of games recently too. So a couple of more like kind of explorative or narrative games. Like there's a game that came across my radar called Gloomvale, which is like a very, very short demo is out and available to play, but you basically play this little like you're a little bug in a forest and he has like a little backpack and adventurer kind of thing. And you're in this forest that doesn't necessarily seem to have anything that's like um anything sinister going on on the surface, but as you continue to like walk around and stuff, nothing is like aggressively opposing you, but if you're like attacking and fighting everything you come across, you start to get these like pop-ups that the forest is taking note of what you are doing.
Oh God.
And so then then you'll get into a new area if you've gotten there's like an anger meter or like an agitation meter that fills up at the bottom. And if you um go into an area where normally things are quite passive, maybe they'll be aggressive or like moving around more quickly because it kind of seems like a game where you're supposed to um try to get through areas as like passively as possible, but it's not always possible because there's other bugs that are crawling around on the ground and kind of meandering in random paths. And if you kick them and knock them over, you could like hurt them or you could agitate them. And then if enough get agitated, then all the other ones start to swarm around. And it's pretty bare bones in terms of like what the content there is, but the actual concept of it itself had me intrigued. And I played it with a friend. Um, so it was very much like both of us trying to uh, avoid causing too much issue while we were running around. But you're also in this world where there's sort of like light platforming, little puzzle elements, that sort of thing, um, and compelling that way. And then of course other multiplayer game demos and that sort of thing. Um, Little Far Far West as always because that game is also just very fun to play either on my own or with some friends. And I think that that pretty much sums it up. I've gotten back to World of Warcraft a little bit. Just trying to finish off kind of the story playthrough that I'm doing with my one character. And I'm kind of playing the game like a D&D campaign where I'm like trying to write down everything from my character's perspective and really pay attention to all the lore and stuff. And that's been a very like compelling way to uh interact with the game in a way that I haven't before that really makes everything feel a lot more like meaningful, which is quite has been quite cool. But um the WoW has definitely slowed down for sure.
The I looked up Gloomvale when you were talking about the art style's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, it's pretty like what's the adjectives I'm trying to find. It's very like low key. It's a very like calm, vibey game to like walk through as you're
Yeah.
going around. Everything's like pretty, cartoony looking for sure. I get big Hollow Knight vibes from it. Um,
I was gonna say
yes,
Grounded, like the earlier versions of the first Grounded a little bit.
yeah, yeah, like cartoony and a little exaggerated characters in that sort of way, but also just like it's a timeless combination of having some sort of like kind of more cutesy aesthetic with a darker undertone, and that's definitely on full display there with that one too. And I'd be really compelled to find out what like more about that world in that game and really figure out like what's going on and why what's happening is happening, that sort of thing. But big week for playing a lot of smaller titles for sure. Trying to
Proper
experiment.
variety.
Yeah.
As for myself, plugging away at Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I am 60% done. I still got a long way to go. And then Matt gave me PSP Fever.
What does that mean?
Well, I have a PSP 1000, I guess 1001 technically, right, Matt?
Yeah, because of the region. Yep.
Um, oh yeah, it says on the bottom there. And then I ordered a PSP 3001, which is the Metal Gear Solid like edition, and so it's like a dark green color. Uh, and I never had a 3001 system, so I'm excited. I heard there are some improvements. It has double the RAM, has a better display. It is thinner, which I guess some people like or dislike, depending on how you kind of want your console. And then I held your 2000, Matt,
Yep.
and it's definitely a lot lighter and doesn't feel as like a solid brick like this thing does.
Well, there's no
Um,
auto, like there's a spring mechanism to open the UMD drawer there. Like the other ones don't have that.
which I've heard a lot of people don't like because it feels very kind of non-premium, where you have to manually open and close this door. Uh,
It's non-premium, but for game preservation's sake, it's smarter, in my opinion.
It's less moving parts and stuff, right?
Easier to repair, and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This always felt weird. It always felt like, is it broken? Can you bend it out too far? And it felt very like VCR putting in a disc and then closing it. So definitely an old system. But yeah, I'm excited to get that. Hopefully it's coming soon. It's coming from Quebec.
Hey.
I'm tracking it, and it'll be exciting to just add that to my collection.
Well, you found a killer deal, and I ended up picking it up.
Yeah, I'm good at spending other people's money somehow.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. So you sent me this PSP bundle. I don't even need the PSP. I might sell just the PSP, but PSP with a little traveler case. But more importantly, the camera. And I have a camera in box, and I'm going on vacation in a few months, and I wanted to take a PSP camera with me and take some like retro shots with the PSP camera. I thought that'd be kind of funny.
Yeah.
Just kind of a novelty thing, kind of a fun thing. And I was like, you know what? How much is like a camera that's not in the box? And it was like 200, 250 sometimes. I was like, Jesus, that bundle that you found was like 200 because there's a coupon. It was like 200 flat for all three. I was like, well, I may as well just do this, and then I'll likely sell the PSP. I have three. I don't need freaking four. So
maybe I'll buy that off you, because that was that a 2000 or was that a 3000 one?
I don't remember.
It might have been a 3000 because I know I didn't want a 2000.
Okay. Well, you didn't like it for some reason. You didn't like the color or something.
I did not want a silver for some reason. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's just weird because like you have the black camera and then you have the silver body. I don't know. It just didn't feel right.
Well, there's a silver camera, but it's like very chromed.
Oh.
But I think the black camera is a better model, actually.
Yes, I'm not sure what that person was selling it for so cheap for, unless they're lying to us and the camera's broken. But
we'll see. We'll see soon enough.
Other than that, the Division, we got a lot done in the Division. Division 2 specifically. And I think that's about it. All right. Tim, where do they see you do your thing?
Tim?
Well, on certain websites, it's a little more expensive than others, but typically twitch.tv/sidetrack, where it's always a good time. And then occasionally on Wednesday nights on twitch.tv/day1patchmedia, playing multiplayer games.
Boom. All right. We'll see you guys next time.
Yo, peace.